Why am I doing this? I have no clue. Hey there! So we're gonna make a corset, and this video I have recorded the whole process of the beginning to end of the making of this corset to share with you the process of making this corset. In case you want to make your own, you can just follow along to this video. This is my first corset ever. I learned it in a class, and I figured why not share it with you. As the video plays, I will be explaining each of the different steps that led to the final completion of the corset. I'm ready. Let's do this. Let's do this. Okay, I'm ready. I'm too excited. I'm always so excited. I swear I haven't had any coffee. Just tea. Just tea. So these are the parts. There are two. I've cut two of each pattern. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew. And when I'm sewing from top to bottom. And in each pattern piece, I'm sewing from top to bottom, making sure that there's no tension. As you sew, you always have to iron because you want it to be flat and crisp. The more you iron, the better. What I'm doing next is placing a base stitch above the corset, about an inch below. And now what I'm going to do, see, these are all the seams. There's a lot of seams, I know. So the seam allowance is 0.50, but now what I'm doing is I'm trimming because I'm going to do a flat film seam. And so I took my ruler and I cut it down. And you want to make sure when you cut your seams from the left, imagine a mirror image. So when you place it, the flat films are a reflection of each other. Using a blanket stitch edge, I am hand sewing my interface, and the pattern is the same one as the pattern that I used in the corset. The only difference is that there is no seam allowance. I'm gonna fold in the seam and you want to fold it in and iron it in a straight direction. Also, when you're hand sewing, it has to be very small stitches. So you iron. The more you iron, the better. Make sure it's tucked in correctly. Now that I ironed, I have taken my pins and pinned it in to ensure that it's flat. Back to my sewing machine, and I start to sew. And take your time. So these are the corset steel bones. I purchased them the size of the seam. So once I had my seam ready, I took my measuring tape and I measured what size I needed for each opening. Slide it in, and it should fit in there nice and tucked, not too loose, not too tight, just a nice space. And now this is how I made the pattern of the beads. I took some pattern paper, made a shape, cut it up, and then I traced it over the larger pattern paper to have a larger pattern. And then cut that apart, took my pins, and I started to stitch the paper inside in order so when I trace over the fabric, it doesn't move. And what I'm using here is a chalk pencil. Next up, I don't know if you can tell, but I started beading after that, but you're not supposed to, so don't. What you're supposed to do next is then attach your Grossgrain top of the area where you made a base stitch of your corset. So you start to attach your Grossgrain in order to make the top nice and tight. I'm using the catch stitch now to clean the hem, and I don't know if you can tell, but they are cut up, and it's because of the curve. Because it's curved, I needed to release the tension, so I cut it up a bit. And now with the catch stitch, I'm going in and hand sewing the hem in order to have a clean finish. Do you see how the stitch looks? That's the catch stitch. And you do it all throughout, in the top and in the bottom, in order to ensure the folds of the top and the bottom are correct. And then after that, you just go into beading, and beading takes a really long time, a really long time. If you choose to hand bead the whole thing, you watch a lot of Netflix, a lot of Freakonomics, podcasts, YouTube videos. This was a movie called what was it? The Future of Fashion, I think. or oh, the New Black. It's called The New Black. It's on YouTube. Watch it. It's extremely interesting. It's hand beating the beads, and you're constantly seeing this. This is thread heaven. This helps make the cotton thread very smooth, and it stops it from tangling. So it's very important that you use this, because you don't want your thread to tangle up. How was your day? Have you had a beautiful day? You guys, talk to me. This can take a really long time, especially if you decide, like I did, to sew the whole thing while it beads. To bead the whole thing, not sew the whole thing. Bead the whole thing. And even the hand sewing, it's difficult. You can do it in one day, but it's only if it's the only thing you do. And the same goes with beading. When you're beading, don't travel with it. I don't think it's best to travel with it, because then some beads won't be as tight as other ones. I was constantly moving around beading with it in between the day, and that led me to have some areas where there's small beads loose, and I had to go back and bead it in order for them to be tighter. And this wouldn't have happened if I just not had traveled with the corset so much. So when you're beading your corset, if you choose to bead your corset, don't travel with it. Stay in one spot if you can. It's not you're obligated, but if you can, it's ideal. Tea time. I'm drinking some tea there. The size needle that I'm using is not a embroidery needle. I found that the embroidery needle was too thin for me to use. So what I'm using is the needle that I'm using is just a regular dressmaking needle. And I didn't have to worry too much. It was nice and sharp. I didn't mention the thread that I'm using is 100% cotton, and as well as the fabric. The fabric of the corset is 100% organic. You can purchase it in Organic Cotton Plus. I'll attach the link in the description, so you can just go there and purchase it. As for the beads, I purchased the beads in my local Joann's, and I bought so many. I ran out twice. So if you plan to bead, I'm not sure how would you determine how many beads you need. Just make good judgment as to how many beads you'll need. And I've been beading this entire corset for about 3 months and a half, and this is a final look. This is how it looks in the inside before I started to sew the lining. And the lining is the same pattern as the first layer of the corset. However, the seam allowance is 0.25. I'm now hand sewing the lining to the corset in order to cover the inside. The inside is beautiful, I think it is, but by sewing the lining, it just makes it much more comfortable to wear, a lot more comfortable. And now once you attach your lining, it's just all throughout, from the bottom, sides, and top. You just start to hand sew. I enjoyed it. It's very peaceful. It's something that you do very single-mindedly. And also the lining you can buy in Organic Cotton Plus as well. It's in the link. Please check out the links. These fabrics are extremely durable, as well as the thread. The white thread I did buy in Organic Cotton Plus, and this is for the grommets. I have a chalk pencil. I took one of the eyelets and I traced the shape. Then I took my ruler. I know you see 2 holes. And the other side it looked better. This was the first try because I wanted a certain distance, and I was like, no. This distance is much better. So decide on the distance, take your ruler, and once you decide on it, you use these tools, the eyelet puncher, and attach your eyelets. And now what I've done is I hand threaded the eyelets in order to give it a more decorative touch, and as well to secure them inside, because once they were attached, I noticed they were still a bit loose, so I wanted to reinforce it and ensure that it was nicely tucked in, and also it looks pretty. So I took embroidery thread and I started to sew back and forth until it was fully covered. And this is like, I back stitched, and you're all done. And this is what you do in both sides. Then you clip off any excess thread and you're all done. Clean it up and it'll look like this. Do you see how nice it looks? It's so pretty. It's so much better than how the steel outlet looked. Woo! All done! Are you there? Do you see me clearly? Okay. It is completed, and it's such an amazing satisfaction to see it from it, like in the physical world, from my head to actually being able to hold it. Like, I hope that you too are now wanting to make one on your own. I'm sure I did not go over everything as specifically as I wished. If there are any questions, anything specifically that you want me to just go over, like the draping of the pattern or detailed explanation of a specific step, just say it in the comments. Or if you don't want to write on the comments, you can tweet me, you can message me on Facebook, you can write to me on Instagram, you can write to me in Duolingo too. I'm pretty sure I receive comments in Duolingo, and that's the magic of social media. So don't forget to reach out. Make sure you do. What else? You guys, I am horrible at ending videos. Like, I have to tell you this. I am horrible at ending videos. I could go on and on talking. So yeah, I'm gonna leave you with the photos. Where I source the materials are in the descriptions below, and some more close-up of how the corset ended up looking. Here's the front, the side, and it's very nicely packed. There's many beads, many beads. I know you can make your own corset. Trust me, this is my first one ever, and if I can do it, you can definitely do it too. Send me pictures of your first corset or any garment that you make. I would love to see it, and it's just exciting to get to share different works or different ideas. What?